So, did you go see the new Avatar movie?
No.
Me neither. I seriously doubt I will ever see it. Anyway, that was the only thing I could think to talk of when I forgot what I wanted to talk about. And then luckily, my dear wife reminded me.
Hmm.
Verizon is gaslighting me.
Really?
Yes. And they've been doing it for a while.
Hmm.
But, and I was always, I mean, I don't want to, armchair quarterback my own abuse, but I did have a hint that it was, I wasn't sure. And then they just bald face. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Let's talk about this. All right. Verizon, they are actually my cell phone provider. They give me great service. They are a little expensive, but I like them just fine. This has absolutely nothing to do with that. They have a commercial out. They actually have a whole campaign of commercials, the entire premise of which appears to be uh newly retired from SNL cast member Cecily Strong sits on a giant word Verizon and talks to somebody about how they should get that phone.
Okay.
Sometimes it's been a lot of celebrities and stuff, football players, I think. I don't know. I'm getting to that age where I can be like, clearly the TV wants me to be impressed with who this person is, and I have no idea who they are. And I'm surprised at how here I am for that. I love not
Okay.
knowing a lot of people now. Anyway,
Okay.
they've had one for the holiday season. That is not a celebrity. It is clearly Ebenezer Scrooge,
Okay.
which is funny because he's miserly, whatever. Also, he makes the joke. He says, "My cell signal is totally ghosting me." It's terrible. And again, Cecily Strong and Scrooge, who looks an awful lot like Paul Giamatti, in my opinion. I mean, it
Hmm.
doesn't look like him, but I've seen Paul Giamatti play a lot of like old dudes, and it kind of looks like the kind of old dude that turns out to be Paul Giamatti.
Hmm.
But it can't be. He's not. He has like two lines in the truncated version. He has one line. He's just playing. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? It's weird. And I see it for a long time, but I'm like, and I finally tell Trish because she's in the room. This is all YouTube, whatever. And I'm like, see, does that kind of look like Paul Giamatti? She's like, it kind of does. I'm like, yeah, it's weird. Why would you get? But of course he wouldn't. I mean, why would Paul Giamatti do a phone commercial? Like whatever. I see you smirking, and I don't know if it's because you're familiar with these commercials or just because we all know where this story is going.
I haven't seen them.
Well, there's a new one I just saw last night. I don't even get like I was too distracted. I don't know why the fuck this is the thing. But this time Cecily Strong is sitting on a giant Verizon and Albert Einstein comes by. I don't yeah, again, I have no idea what the tie in there. I didn't pay attention because Albert Einstein, though still done in full makeup and it's clearly him, is also clearly fucking Paul Giamatti. Like, not a question this time. That's Paul Giamatti done up as Albert Einstein, which means there is a vanishingly small probability that wasn't fucking Paul Giamatti in the other one.
Yeah.
Why are they doing this to me? Why why even put Paul Giamatti in yourself? Paul, why are you there? And why is one of them like kind of a secret and the other why? I think I've not heard anyone else speak about this, so I believe this is a target psychological op on me.
On you. Yeah, sure it
Well, I
is.
haven't heard anybody else complain.
I think
Maybe
Paul
I'm the only one
Giamatti,
brave enough to speak up.
he's just he just would really like more character actor roles. He just isn't getting enough.
Take him where I can get.
So he take him
I'm
where he can
getting
get him.
ever since Spider-Man 3, I'm getting nothing but supervillain roles offered to me. I really want
I mean, you
something up
know,
with me.
he's hoping someone will see this and say, Albert Einstein biopic. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's cast Paul
If
Giamatti.
Walter Matthau could do it. Seriously though, like the ad's been up for a couple of months and I'm just about past it. Like I now have look and I'm like, yeah, that's definitely not Paul Giamatti. And then this one, I don't even think either of us was looking at the screen, and I heard the voice, and I'm like, wait a sec, and I'm like, Trent, and she's like, that's Paul Giamatti. I was like, it is Paul Giamatti.
I'd watch a Christmas Carol version with him playing Scrooge.
100%. I had to back up and be like, has he done that? Is this a reference to a version I haven't seen? I do not think so, though.
Yeah.
Unless A Christmas Carol isn't based on the life of John Adams, right?
No.
Okay, then I don't think.
I don't know when
Also,
the last
Christmas
live
Carol's not about traveling through wine country.
No. I don't remember the last time they made a live action Christmas Carol. Are they about due for one? Another one?
We had the scary animated one.
Which was so accurate to the original story. That's the one I watched. The Jim Carrey one.
I mean, I'm sure we've had a variations of them, but just a straight up, no, I don't know that we have.
I think it's about
time.
And we had one.
The argument for remakes gets harder when it's a period piece.
I don't know. I
Because
mean,
with some of them, it's like, we want to update the story for now. It's like, no, it's still
just make it not. I mean, the other ones still look like they were made 40, 50,
well,
or
and
even
sometimes
30
you can
years ago.
do it prettier or different or whatever. But I'm like, yeah. I disbelieve anybody's gonna do a better one or like find the niche we don't currently have. So I'm comfortable saying no one ever needs to make another Christmas Carol. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying we definitively have enough of that, and kids 50 years from now are going to relate to it just as well as we did, which is to say a century or two off.
I suppose so.
So there's a lot of Christmas carols.
There are, but
some of them are very bad.
Yes, and they're also different from one another, that people actually have some pretty spirited debates about which one's better than what. They're pretty different. I mean, some of them have a lot of musical numbers in them.
Very carefully as a child and still had like 3 of them mixed up in my head until I was probably 20.
Oh, okay.
They do also, and I performed in it at an early age, so it's in my blood. But
I mean, I just think every generation has like actors they'd like Paul Giamatti playing Scrooge. I didn't even think of that, and now I really want to see that.
Verizon did, but only so they could fuck with me.
Who would you? Okay, so if they were making a Christmas Carol with Paul Giamatti as Scrooge, who would you cast in the other things? Who would you cast as the Christmas present? Who would you cast as Marley?
Do they have to be alive?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of good places for Alan Rickman, so I'm just checking.
That's true, but it's unfortunately.
I assume we're still setting it in London, and Giamatti's doing an accent.
Yeah, that's.
I don't really like the American retelling style.
No,
it feels very British to me. All right.
No, it's still period. It's got to be. It doesn't work any other way, as far as I'm concerned. Although I wrote a version that is modern that had Jack Black playing Scrooge. I thought that was pretty cool. But anyway, let's set that aside.
Your history's greatest monster. All right. So I'm really stuck on Marley and Cratchit. I feel like this should okay. Malcolm McDowell plays Marley, and I'm not certain he hasn't already done that. Rupert Grint is Bob Cratchit.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's really good. That's really good.
Christmas Future is a big cloak on a stick. Doesn't fucking matter.
Doesn't matter.
I'm not going off book there. I really like the dark, no face.
Everybody does. I've never seen
played with it, but it's a classic.
Yeah.
Christmas Present is Gwendolyn Christie, which I know is a bit trendy right now, but I think it'd be awesome.
That's inspired. That's inspired right there. Nice.
I'm never good with Christmas, but I can't even tell you if I like the versions they've had. Christmas Past to me always feels finicky in a weird way.
Christmas Present or Past?
Oh,
yeah,
Past.
Christmas Past. Yeah. Well, in the animated thing, they actually tried to make Christmas Past look like what the book described, which is like this flame-headed weird thing. I don't know if you want to go that route or if you just want to make it a person like most people do.
I've mostly the pixie or young woman or old sort of shoemaker looking dude. These are the versions I recall from various versions.
What about the nephew? It's not a big part, but
Chris Pine. Duh. Obvious. If we're skewing more comedy, we could do Borat. What's his?
Oh, yeah, I forget his name.
Borat.
Sasha.
Who's also Ali G. Who's I can't remember his name. It's really fun that I can't remember his name.
Whatever.
But he could do. But no, Chris Pine. It's Chris Pine. Of course, it's Chris Pine.
Okay.
It's gonna be one of the princes from the Into the Woods movie. It has to be. And I don't remember the other one. Was the other one Tom Felton? I don't even remember. I apologize. It was probably a lesser Hemsworth. I just don't remember. I didn't particularly like that movie. But it's Chris Pine. All day, Chris Pine. Little mustache. Yeah. Chris
Pine. Okay. Nice.
And
you'd probably have to cast a young Paul Giamatti.
Oh.
You can just DH him probably.
What's Zendaya doing? I think Zendaya would be a great. Again, it's a little Route One. I think she'd be a really good Ghost of Christmas Past.
Oh yeah.
If we've got her number, let's do that. Tiny Tim needs to be special.
Oh, sure.
And Vern Troyer is dead, so
that's a tough one.
See, I don't know any of the good kids now.
I don't either.
They're like, I'm like Asa Butterfield. I'm pretty sure he's like 30. In fact, I think I saw a trailer for a rom-com where he's the male lead. And I'm like, that's the fucking kid from Ender's Game? What happened? But he's grown up now.
I mean, I think I've seen some good films with young male and female actors. Really good, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
See, even A Stranger Thing is too old. I don't know. We'll hold auditions. We'll find an unknown. We'll find the next child star to ruin.
But don't you think that's true that lots of people want to see actors that they like and are familiar with? They go, oh wow, that actor would be great in this role, and they want to see
absolutely.
That. So,
that's the thing. Yeah, we're gonna get there. Programmable. Like they're getting real good at the split screen and stuff, so it'll just be like we had 8 different people do each character, and we filmed them all. You get to pick.
You could deep fake Alan Rickman, I guess. It'd be tough.
I frequently do. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Magical Talking Hat podcast, the only podcast in the world that's pretty much the Sharknado series. It's real easy to do. Very few people like it, but there's no way or reason to stop it. I'm Tony.
And I'm William. This is episode 615.
And the last one of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
When it's in the balmy freaking 50s outside.
Yeah.
The entire world is melting.
We did have a white Christmas. That was nice.
Yeah, it was nice for you. Because you didn't travel so much.
Well, I tried to travel the next day and I didn't make it.
I traveled back the next day. But I traveled there on Friday,
Hmm.
which was not a good day to travel.
Oh, no, you're right. It wasn't.
We had to stop a couple of times and have some talks about whether or not Trish felt comfortable still going. In
Wow.
retrospect, I don't think it was a good risk. We got there fine and safe, but in retrospect, I'm like, because it was blowing snow, which I don't know if there are any of you who don't live in this part of the country. I had never really experienced blowing snow in Oregon, but like there's no snow falling, but the wind is blowing it around that it will make everything disappear. The road,
Right.
especially, gone.
Right.
But
Right.
the visibility sometimes was like 30 feet. I was uncomfortable enough as a passenger that at one point, Trish jokingly called me Tina, meaning Tina Belcher from Bob's Burgers, because I was sitting there, apparently not knowing I was doing it, quietly going, like she does. Like it was scary. And then we got there and I was like, hi, happy to be here. I refuse to leave this house again until Monday. And I didn't. I stayed inside all the way till Monday. So how was your holiday? Not as good, presumably, because you didn't get places.
Well, kids came here on Christmas Day, so that was fine.
Okay.
And they didn't have any problem getting here. It was a little iffy when they left, but it was fine. The next day, we were supposed to go, 100 miles west to my family's, and it was fine for the first, I'm going to say 40 miles, maybe. And then the interstate became pure ice after that. And it was,
what can you tell me what time of day this was?
Well, by that time it was probably around 10 or 11 o'clock.
Okay, because I'm betting this storm system went all the way east, and I'm pretty sure we went through it in a lesser stage later on.
Well, for whatever reason, the interstate was fine up until that point, and then it was completely ice covered. And I was still driving on it, pretty fast even.
Sideways now, but
no, but I thought, well, is this going to be okay? But then we started. So there wasn't a single mile that we drove where we didn't see a car or a semi in the ditch, but it was from previous days. Now we were seeing people who were clearly fresh in there. There were people still in their cars. And then we went past a wreck that had clearly happened just minutes before. There were still people in their cars. There was one guy openly weeping at his steering wheel with his wrecked car, and we had to drive slowly through it. It was a little, we weren't sure if we should stop if we were that close to when the thing, but emergency vehicles have to get in, so you really can't.
Yeah.
You can't be congesting the place with Good Samaritans or whatever. So we just went through and we thought that wasn't good. And then there was another wreck just not even 2 miles from there that was earlier, clearly, but still. And so we said, all right, we're getting off and we're going to figure out what we're going to do. We got off in Grinnell, as it turns out. And we were sitting there talking about it, noting that, there was clearly ice on the road. When we were driving slow enough, we could even clearly see that's what it was. And while we were talking, we had an app that was telling us what the road conditions were. And as we were talking, yet another wreck happened in that same stretch of road while we were sitting there talking about it. So we called home and said, we're turning around.
Yeah.
And so
take Highway 6 back.
That's right. Well, for most of it, because 6 wasn't in good shape either, but 6 was safer because you could drive slower, safer, and there were fewer cars on it. So we took 6 back to where we knew, it happened to be Malcolm. We knew if we got on the interstate at Malcolm, the roads were okay, and they were. So we just took 6 to that where Malcolm was. But I'd never been actually through Grinnell. I mean, we went right past the college and everything like that. And I was like, oh, this is where Tony went. Tony would
You could have, if you'd paid a little more attention in my book, you probably could have found my apartment.
I could have thought of that. I thought, I'm pretty sure that he used some real
right off a main road there. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd never been driven through Grinnell before. But anyhow,
and in general, Highway 6 is a nice drive.
It really is. I would have been happy taking it all the way back, but it was, like you said, wind was blowing snow over it, and it was not that safe, but it was safer than the interstate because you could drive slower and you weren't running into as much traffic. And then when we got to where we needed to be north of Malcolm, we hit the interstate and the interstate was fine.
See,
but yeah, we didn't make it on the 26th.
This is the problem with our podcast. I had two realizations very close together here. One is I was really enjoying this conversation. And two is that it's probably like a conversation that you hear two old guys at a coffee shop having, and you know they're having it with each other because absolutely no one else would give a single solitary shit about it. Like, we're a worse version of that old Californian sketch. Just talking about, oh yeah, but I was like, but I dig it. I'm not gonna stop it. This is good.
That was really
so how many Tremors movies did you watch this time?
Well, I was gonna say that was really disappointing that we didn't get to go home, but that's how that went. Now, when the kids were over, we didn't watch Tremors movies. We did watch Star Wars movies. Because that's what they like to do for Christmas, which is fine. I like Star Wars. And I was thinking, while we were watching, I was thinking, so before they made these movies, they dumped the canon, quote unquote, of all the novels that had been written and everything, because they said, well, we want to open things up for the new storytellers. We don't want them to be bound by that. And then what did the filmmakers do? They did retreads of retreads of previous ones, and even Clone Wars. Filoni just borrowed stuff from novels all the time. And all I can think is, why did you even do that? Why, if everyone liked it so much that you're either going to rip it off or just, have that stuff in your stories anyway. I mean, I suppose what the stories they've told now are sort of simpler, I guess, that they're not as complicated or whatever.
Well, and in some places they do change things to suit their.
I guess.
I think it's just a have it all thing. If they found that there was a new gimmick that went in a totally different direction and everybody bought tickets to it, then we wouldn't have any of this shit in it. But then when they were like, let's make some good Star Wars, the people they hired to do it were like, I got some over here. Nobody wants it. And everybody was like, oh shit, we know. Here, let's buy more tickets. And they were like, this also works. But we still retain the option to completely fuck it over at any time if it makes us more money.
I guess so. I also realized that the way the story is going now, it seems like the fulfillment.
I love how you say the story.
What? What do you mean?
I mean, I know technically they're all in the same universe, so in theory this is a cohesive timeline, but come the fuck on.
Okay, well, what I was going to say was, it seemed like that little prophecy about Anakin balancing the Force or whatever. It sounds like the way they're interpreting that is, he didn't just destroy the Jedi, he technically destroyed the Sith. So Luke's job after that was not to do anything, just to leave it. But then he screwed it up again by trying to start the Jedi up again. And so then the grandson of Anakin had to once again make it so there are no Sith and no Jedi. And is that the way Disney wants it? I mean, you're going to have people with Force powers and all that, and that's fine, but you're not necessarily going to have Sith or Jedi. And is that
I
what they want?
You're still going to have Sith or Jedi.
Oh. Well, then why did they, maybe that was just a Rian Johnson thing. Maybe he just was pushing things that direction.
Think you are thinking about this more than the people who made it. I'm not even kidding about that.
That's probably true.
I need to. All right. But you did remind me of something. Oh, for those of you just joining us, Happy New Year. Is the show. We got an email. We'll get to it. We're just hanging. I found a new YouTube channel that I would like to recommend to specific people, possibly you included.
Okay.
So, as we already know, I watch on Cracked. There's a guy who does recaps of entire series of movies and mostly making fun of them. And he started with Saw, he's done Final Destination, Resident Evil, God's Not Dead, The Santa Claus, all sorts of things. But I enjoy them because I like the snark, and I find his voice very soothing. I listen to them repeatedly. Like if I'm gonna go to bed soon and I'm doing something on my laptop, I'll put it on the background, whatever. And I think weirdly my favorite one is the first one, the Saw one, possibly just because Saw is the most bonkers movie series. I don't know, but I apparently watched enough of it that YouTube was like, "Oh, you're clearly into the Saw movies and their timeline." But this turned out to be good because what they gave me was this guy who was doing the full timeline of John Kramer, the Jigsaw Killer. And I watched this. Don't remember why. Cannabis might have been involved. I don't know. It was a while ago. But what he does is the exact opposite of what the other guy does. He basically takes all the material, which includes the movies, and like in the case of Saw, there have been novels and comics and stuff like that. And he basically does all the work to make it a cohesive story. Like he doesn't change contradictions, but he's like, this happened and this happened. But in this novel, we know this, so we can assume that this happened, and makes it into a story that isn't shitty. And he does it like half of his videos are this. It's called CZ's World. Letter C, letter Z, letter S, world, all one word. And half of his things are this, what he calls horror history. And they're not actually about movie series. They're generally about characters and their lifetime within. So like The Conjuring, he's got a bunch of different ones. I watched one on the demon that's the evil nun, and there's all the history there and all that. And that was very interesting. And it's fun in the exact opposite way. He just took, let's be honest, in most cases, shitty movies and turned them into a kind of good story. And it's kind of fun to hear. And he's also goofy and makes jokes and stuff like that too. But so I thought it was fun. So I would recommend that. The cops are here. I have to go. I don't know if the mic's picking that up. All the crimes I did.
What did you say it was called? C what?
C, the letter C, the letter Z, the letter S, the word world. All of that in one word.
Because that does sound extremely interesting.
Yeah, I found it pretty cool. So, and yeah, when you were talking, I was like, this could be your kind of thing. All right. Anyway, other than not getting home and that, how's your week been?
Well, Christmas was
good. Christmas? Did you get
Christmas was great. So do you know, actually, yes, but are you aware of this riding toy for kids that it's a horse and there's like 4 springs and a kid can rock on it?
Yes. I had it.
You had one. All right. Well, I had one. Abby had one. And I don't know if they were mostly made by Radio Flyer, but Radio Flyers makes them now today. And so we got one for Delmer, and he loved it. And now
they're awesome.
But now they have like electronic sound effects. So it comes with like a plastic carrot, and if you stick it in the horse's mouth, it sounds like it's eating the carrot. And when the kid rides it, it sounds like it's galloping and everything. He loved it. He was just completely thrilled with it.
Can you turn that off?
Yes, you can turn it off.
I was gonna say, whenever you buy toys for kids, you have to make sure there's an off switch.
But so the kids got me some books, and it was amazing. The books they got, it's like I don't think, some of them were books I'd never talked to anybody about me wanting, but I'd always see them. I thought, I got to get that, and I never did. But that's what they got. I mean, it was really good, very insightful and thoughtful gift selection there. I was pretty impressed. But yeah, we don't, because they have, it's kind of weird because, as you know, we don't exchange gifts in my family, and even Abby's family either. So it's kind of a different thing now for us to be like getting gifts or whatever.
Yeah.
But part of it's because there's a kid involved, right? I mean, you're going to get the kid.
That's very often what this kind of thing is. Yeah.
And we like to get the kids stuff, and so they wanted to get us some things, and it was books, which is a perfect gift for both of us. Perfectly fine if that's all they ever get us is books. They don't have to get us anything, of course, but I think they like to. And so it was different than it's been for the last 30 years, but it was fun. It was really fun. It was nice. And, we get them some things too. So yeah, that was great. I was really looking forward to going home, because that would have been just perfect. 26th, drive home and have Christmas with my family, because sometimes we haven't had Christmas at all. We've had to wait till January, and January's too snowy, and so maybe we can get together in February when Scott and I have our birthdays. And so I thought, oh, this is going to be perfect, and we just didn't make it. But so yeah, Christmas was great. Holidays were great. We also saw Glass Onion, which was pretty good. Are you going?
Oh yeah,
think you'll see that?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. We'll definitely see it. We love Knives Out.
Yeah, I thought Knives
Out. There's a bunch of stuff on. There's a bunch of movies that have recently dropped that we are very interested in. We haven't gotten to see too many of them.
I'd recommend it. I don't have much to say about it, but if you liked Knives Out, to me this was better, but I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, just not much else to report. Just a really good holiday, and we saw that one movie. But and I was happy to see the snow, but I'm sorry for anyone who had travel problems. So how was your holiday aside from the weird drive?
It was pretty good. Good eating as usual. Everybody was there. Nobody got sick or anything.
Oh, that's good.
My gifts were very thoughtful this year. I was very pleased. I've been pushing for a few years to do charitable donations.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, I take it back. Either to do charitable donations or spend a ridiculous amount of money on
it. Yeah.
Because I'm like, the category of like affordable things that I want, I've got them.
Right.
So either give the money to people who need it more, or buy me a PS5 or a new Prius or something like that. And occasionally they buy me a new PS5. I didn't get a PS5. But the problem is, especially with Trisha's side of the family, they really want me to have a thing to open. And I can respect that idea, but they are getting better and better about the thing doesn't have to be too much. So I got 3 different charitable donation things, one of which was surprisingly high amount of money, and one of which was, again, I wish I had it here. There's a website, hopefully I talked about it last year. My sister-in-law and her husband found this website, and it's a charity website. So you give somebody like a gift certificate for $50 or whatever. They go to the website and they get to pick out of several hundred charities which one they want to donate it to.
Nice.
So that was cool. So I haven't even done that one yet, but yeah, somebody did for Trevor Project for me, somebody else, local food bank, which was all good. And then just little things, like one of those came with a lottery ticket and a book of, because I cook now, so it's a book of 15-second recipes, which is things like handful of cereal and stuff like that. So that was cute. Another one was just a weird chocolate bar that came with it, so that was good. So it was a pretty mundane presence, exactly the way I wanted it. Like, it was giving money out there, and I feel way better about that, and I got plenty of stuff. I myself have very recently purchased Horizon Forbidden West, the video game.
Good.
Because that's what I'm going to spend my winter doing. Because I have to have a game. You know about this.
Yeah.
Last year was Final Fantasy 14. Year before it was Witcher 3, I think. A couple of times it's been Fallout 4.
Would you recommend Witcher 3, by the way?
I would. I very much would. I didn't technically finish it. Because there was just so much, and eventually I got tired.
Because we saw the Witcher prequel also and liked it quite a bit. And
sorry. Wait, what are we talking? We're talking video game, or are we talking TV show?
No, we're talking the video game.
Okay.
Because we liked the TV show.
Yes.
We liked Witcher also, but the prequel series they just had we like that even more. And we're thinking maybe we're just going to like the world that this takes place in, and maybe the video game would be fun.
It is the robustness of the world is what I like about it. What I don't like is it's a terribly dark, medieval, misogynist world.
Yeah, and we don't like that stuff either, but I didn't.
But again, I think that's because it's at least partially supposed to be based on early Middle Ages.
Sure.
Then, that kind of thing. But no, so I would very much recommend Witcher 3 then. Specifically, I wouldn't bother with the others. Do be prepared for the fact, and I think this is true with most Witcher games, but A, it's different than both the books and the TV show in some ways. And B, they really like you to go for a while before you really understand what the main plot is. Like, you get enough, you're Geralt, you're in this village, you have to do a thing, but like why were you traveling? Why are you looking for so-and-so? What time period is this in relation to anything else? That can be foggy, but I don't think it matters because it's just such a full world.
Yeah.
There's so much to do.
Okay. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm very excited for Horizon Zero, or not Zero Dawn, Forbidden West. Because as we all know, Horizon Zero Dawn, my favorite video game. I haven't started it. I bought it a couple days ago. And I haven't. I have gone to YouTube and watched a recap of the first game just to make sure I'm on the same page here.
We did that too, yeah.
I don't know what it is. I'm nervous about. I get this sometimes when it's a game that I'm like, this is gonna suck up so much of my time. I'm like nervous about breaking the seal. But depending on, we're in a weird place here. Trish is working from home, and then we have a 4-day weekend and stuff. So if she does what she usually does on Thursdays, I will have time for you. I'll probably start playing it tonight. But given that it has been 8 years since Azure Talon started it, and I still see him playing it on there, I'm gonna guess there's a lot to do.
We were recently, Abby was looking on her PS5 at games, and it was saying how many hours she played each one. We calculated that for Fallout 4, she played the equivalent of 2 solid months. 2 solid months of her life.
She was hardcore. Even I wasn't. I broke 300 hours on my last play of Fallout 4. And I'm not going to lie, the urge to play Fallout 4 again has been strong lately. Because I tried Fallout Shelter, the other game your wife's obsessed with.
Yep.
It's hard.
She loves it.
Can you lose? Because I'm always on the verge of everybody dying. Constant.
Yeah, I guess. She's playing Stray right now. She downloaded that.
I never finished Stray. Stray's awesome, but I never finished it.
She seems to like that. But there wasn't any other game that was quite that. It wasn't close. Like the next game was maybe a solid month she played it. I'll give it that. That's still a lot of time. But
very few games have the ability for you to adjust how crooked or not crooked the picture frame is. So that's going to eat up a lot of time if you're your wife. He's laughing because he knows it's true.
It is true.
Some people like base building, and then some people love base building, and then some people should be kept away from base building mechanics for their own safety.
She loves it. She loves
and should probably be kept away. Anyway, I don't want to talk about the video game though, because I haven't started. I do want to talk about a thing. We started a new TV show, and I need to talk about it.
Okay.
Because we really like it, and we aren't sure why we really like it. It's on Hulu. It is called Welcome to Chippendales. I have spoken in passing about this before, I think, because it's a biopic sort of movie about the history of the Chippendales strip club enterprise and its founding in the late 70s by a gentleman by the name of Steve Banerjee, who is played by Kumail Nanjiani, which is why it first got my notice.
Sure.
It's really compelling. And we've only watched 2 episodes and we really like it. I don't know. I don't tend to watch these. I don't watch like a American Crime Story or like thing, House of Gucci or whatever. I usually am not interested in this stuff. I'm generally not interested in things that are based on a true story, which I assume that, actually I know this is, but I'm working really hard to not think of it that way because I'm not trying to learn history. I'm trying to be entertained. But it has a lot of stuff to the degree that I'm going to work really hard not to spoil things. I knew the history of some other shit that was happening in Hollywood around the time this show is happening, and the story intersects with this one. And about midway through an episode, I was like, oh my God, that's so and so. And it was. So stuff gets weird. But I want you to watch it because I want to talk about the filmmaking of it. It's not normal exactly, but not in a way that's easy to spot. There's a surreal quality to it. The editing is really weird. They end their scenes just dead stop. Like the screen goes black and there's no music, and it's not like a commercial break necessarily. And all of their scenes end that way, and it's very weird. It has some very almost music video-esque shots without dialogue occasionally that I'm like, what? And I can tell what they're trying to convey, but it just feels so strange. So it makes the pacing a little weird. Some of the characters are more believable than others. People are doing amazing jobs. And in fact, some of the chemistry is really selling the show. So the whole thing just feels slightly off from what I would imagine a movie or a show like this would be. But it's really good, and everybody's doing a really good job. And it's really fun because Kumail, love him to death. He kind of just plays Kumail Nanjiani in everything he's ever done. And this is not Kumail Nanjiani. And he's doing a very good job. Juliette Lewis is in it, and then a bunch of people who I don't know, except Dan Stevens is in it. Is that his name? Dan Stevens, the British guy.
I think
from Legion. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, from Legion.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would recommend it. It deals with some dark stuff. It's dealing with some historical stuff, and some of it is a little dark. And I have a feeling the story is going to get a little darker and grittier here soon. I don't know the history of the club. It's very fun. It's very entertaining. It's some great performances. It's a very well produced. It's giving very strong late 70s realness, as it were. Trish was pointing that out earlier. Like, people are just doing cocaine in this show, and it's never a plot point, and it's frequently not a main character. It just is a thing that happens because it's 70s Los Angeles. And so there's just a strong sort of verisimilitude on it there. But yeah, we really like it, and we're still not entirely sure why, but we are really enjoying it. So I guess I would recommend that.
Well, I guess I didn't know the Chippendales thing started in the late 70s. Yeah. I remember, so we watched, when I was a kid, we watched all of the daytime interview shows like Donahue and when Oprah came along, all that. And one of the things they like to do is have like, they like to cover people and stories that involved, like Chippendales was one of the things. So they'd have Chippendales on the show and they talk about
or sensationalist stuff. Yeah.
I guess, or things that,
or salacious.
Right. But I think they knew that a lot of their viewers were housewives and stuff. And, I think they were trying to kind of appeal to that. And I remember, watching one of these things, and it was suggested, somehow it was mentioned, or it was actually even shown, like they they had cameras in a strip club where women were the strippers and men were the audience or whatever. And someone was observing how men act very different when they're watching strippers than women act. Women, like in the show, it was the same as if you went to the club. The women are all yelling, screaming and yelling and all this stuff. But when you go to a strip club where the men are, they're all quiet and they're just kind of watching, maybe they'll put a dollar in the woman's whatever. But
yep.
So I thought, that's interesting. Why is that? And I remember thinking at the time that, and I don't know how old I was. I think by then I was probably 10, 11. I don't know how old I was, but it seemed that I got the clear impression that for the men, there was kind of a creepiness to it. The reason that they weren't making any noise or anything, right? That there was like a looking down on the woman, like I'm superior to you and you're doing this. Whereas for the women who were watching this, it was kind of, there was some excitement, not just in the fact that this guy's taking his clothes off, but that they're in the position of power that they're not usually in.
Yeah. This show implies that pretty strongly too, that some of the popularity of this idea is women feeling that they have taken control of a situation sexually when they normally are not able to do that.
Right. And so,
but it really is an evolution. Like literally this just starts with, hey, what if we had a strip club, but for women? But like, that's just the tip of what Chippendales is. Even I know that. And you get to see it. And that's when it starts to get weird. It feels very similar to like Bohemian Rhapsody and other biopics where like something happens and someone walks in a room and says, you know what you should do? And they're like, brilliant. And then they do that thing and it's a huge success. And there's like 8 of those. It's a biopic, So I don't know that, but just the idea of evolving into what it became is really interesting. And who was involved and who wasn't. And how they all sort of came together, because it's definitely, there's an ensemble nature to it. And I do think, and I'm just guessing, I suspect organized crime is going to get involved. They have not as of yet, but I have that suspicion.
Well, I just remember that being the first time I thought about power and how different it is for men and women.
I can think of a lot of reasons. Unfortunately, it's like an entire episode all to itself to talk about that. But yeah, I can think of a few possible things, including the one you put out there.
Yeah, but I think I don't recall really thinking about it until then, and I realized, oh, that's that's very interesting. And I think I was probably primed to figure stuff like that out because my mom was overweight, and she often would.
This is such a weird segue to.
I'm just saying,
talking slowly on.
It was problematic. I mean, people would say things to her and about her, and she heard that while they thought that they were just saying it behind her back, and I was there to see what effect that had on her. But my dad was also overweight, and that never happened to him.
Absolutely.
So there was part of me that I think that was getting primed for this. Well, there's something going on here with that. And I think by the time I was seeing those episodes, I was starting to put together that there was a power thing.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, I think I figured.
And the sexualization of one gender over another and all that.
Sure.
The performative nature and all that. Male gaze.
Right.
Just the other day, I was talking with Trish about this. There was, a few years ago, Chris Pine and Florence Pugh put out a movie called The Outlaw King. I didn't see it. I might see it. I don't know. It's a medieval period piece, I think. Most of the buzz around it was Chris Pine did Full Frontal and showed his business. And everybody's like, oh my God, Chris Pine's dick. And even I was like, oh, I want to see Chris Pine's dick. But I'm watching an episode of Graham Norton, the chat show in Britain, and he's on there. And I think junketing for Outlaw King.
Okay.
And he says And it comes up. They're like, oh, he's supposed to be whatever. And he's like, yeah, everybody's really talking a lot about that. Florence Pugh also does full frontal nudity in it, and nobody's really talking about that. And why do you think that is? And Sally Field is sitting next to him, and she rolls her eyes so hard I could hear it. And she's just like, how much time have you got? And he was like, no, really. And then eventually she basically wrote him off as like, I do not have time here to explain to you centuries of misogyny and institutionalized sexism leading up to this. And he very quickly had to backpedal, and he was like, I mean, I just want to bring it up for the conversation. And I was so torn. I was like, good on you for pointing it out, Chris. And what the fuck is wrong with you that you still find this weird? But like, how do you not know the answer to that question already?
But I also noticed that the experience was different for male strippers versus female strippers, right?
Yeah.
Like I
know in the very same setup.
Yeah, like I could get the sense that for the male stripper, there might have been a lot of, even though he might be objectified or whatever, because he has power. Yeah, because he has power.
They celebrate that Chris Pine is showing his dick.
Exactly.
So it's just a victim of having to make it in the Hollywood business that Florence Pugh has to show her bits. That's just what it takes to get ahead as a woman. It's not something to be celebrated. It's probably something to talk shit about behind her back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And it's the same thing with stripping. Nobody's like, oh my God, how could you do that to yourself, Dylan? God,
right.
Nobody's gonna buy the bull if you're giving away the semen for free.
But
Joseph.
So the men could actually have like their ego boosted by being strippers, but the women,
nope.
Not really.
The system is not. I literally do know actual strippers who are kind of proud of their stripping. But yeah, yes, you're right. Sure. The institutions and the media and the story we tell all of ourselves does not allow for it. It is shameful to be a female stripper. Shameful but necessary. It is wild and adventurous, but maybe a little irresponsible to be a male. Like, you got to be out there. You got to be roguish. You're a little dangerous because there's no reason to have male strippers. We don't need them. You're essentially creating a sexual luxury. Men are dogs. We do everything with our dicks. There have to be places like strip clubs to minimize the amount of damage we just do in the streets. Strip clubs are where you can siphon off all of that terrible aggression. But women don't need to be horny. So the male thing, it's lovely, it's wonderful, it's great art, it makes you very sexy, but it's definitely not, keeping the economy afloat. Like, you're just having fun. It's, that's not a real job. You're just, come on. You're a wild boy, but someday you're gonna have to settle down.
And it seems like all of that is still true, though. It seems like
it wasn't 100%.
Just true in the late 70s and early 80s when I was observing it as a kid while I was watching Donahue. This is like kind of still true.
So, two things that are starting to change it is the burlesque movement is taking a little more ownership of pride in exotic dancing and erotic performance art and things like that, and that's good. Also, I at least personally am running into a lot more people I know who strip or do burlesque who are non-binary. And I dare you to have opinions about that in terms of whether it's denigrating or adventurous. It's like, can't make up your mind. So I do think that. And I mean, all of these things are old-fashioned but super ingrained. I always feel bad because I've still never been to a strip club, and so I don't actually know what it's like. I know what TV and movies have said it's like. I've had some friends, but I also know I've had very different stories from different people about what it's like, and I don't know how much of that depends on the strip club or how much depends on the person. I do not think I would particularly enjoy it, but I'm just sort of curious. I actually think I would find it kind of creepy. I'm a pervert, but my perversions don't run in ways that I think strip clubs are necessarily facilitating. But I am still just kind of curious. But it's on the list of things. I also want to go to Vegas one time, stuff like this, and who knows. And I also wanted to go on a cruise one time, and I really loved that. So maybe I'll really love strip clubs. That would be terrible if that turned out to be the case. I went one time. They're awesome. Spending all my time at strip clubs now.
I almost went to a strip club. I was in Omaha with a person who really wanted to go to one.
Yeah.
And I said, "You think
I want to go? Record, not me. I am not the person in this story.
You're not the one." But I said, "Do you really think that this is something that I would want to do?" And they knew me so well. This person is like, "Well, I mean, just, you know, aren't you interested in the anthropological and sociological aspects?" Oh, that's sneaky. That's really sneaky. And I said, "Probably not," which wasn't very convincing, because I'm always interested in that. It almost doesn't matter. You know, you talk about me being really sensitive about sexual. Well,
the only reason I would ever try and talk you into going to a strip club is that I think it might be the perfect set of stimulus to actually watch you wet your own pants. And I might want to see that because I'm a jerk. But, oh, come on. You would be the most uncomfortable you've ever been in a strip club. And I've seen you pretty super uncomfortable.
Well, it probably says something that, I mean, the place that we went was like, you didn't have to kind of, for whatever, I don't know, I don't remember what the situation was, but you could see what was going on inside without going in. I don't know if it was the neighborhood we were in or what, in Omaha. And you know, I definitely was the person that vetoed it. It's like, no, we're not going in there. But it wasn't, I don't think it was because, well, maybe it was, I don't know. See, here's the thing. I can set aside a lot for, you know, curiosity, for quote unquote science, for a lot of things. For my job as a counselor, there's a lot of things people are going to talk about that I'll be perfectly fine with because I'm their counselor. But before we even got in, you could see what you could see was, for some reason, all the light was red in there, perfectly red. And you could see some woman on stage, and she still had some clothing on or whatever, but she was dancing, and you could just see enough detail to see that she was completely bored. All of the guys sitting around just staring at her. And I'm like, this is all I need to know. This is just gross. We're leaving. And I mean, maybe there'd be more to it if I actually went in there and kind of observed some things and noted some things, because as I said, when I was a kid watching these Donahue episodes, I wasn't uncomfortable because I was too interested in what kind of sociological stuff was going on. But I could tell that this place was not, like, it was more like we'd get to a table and I wouldn't want to sit down at it. I'd feel like I couldn't take enough showers after being here. So let's not go in here. You know?
I don't remember why this came up, but something, I think I must have said it to my niece, my newly turned 18 niece, over Christmas. There was something where she wanted to know where grandma was, and I was like, "Oh, it's like 9:30. She's over at the strip club." And she kind of chuckled and looked at me weird, and I was like, "It's not what you think. She says they do a really good breakfast buffet. I don't know what it is. She really likes it."
Yeah, just, I don't know. It just seemed,
oh my God,
before I got in, it seemed gross.
We're definitely not talking about, we're not doing any emails because William really wanted to talk about stripping for a long time. But that's also, I have to tell this thing. Oh God, what did I? Oh, so, okay. So Verizon, no. So, do we remember the story about how I ruined a teenage boy's life in rural Illinois?
Maybe, I don't remember.
My niece's dungeon master, and he stole a bunch of stuff from McElroy Brothers. Yeah. Did I not talk? I talked about.
No,
this,
you did talk about that.
I did. All right, we did this whole thing. Okay, so, and then we talked about when I went to Madrigal's.
Yes.
So at Madrigal's, this boy he's the head jester. So he's around a lot. He's talking very close to me. And they all come and they talk to tables, and he knows my niece's family, obviously. So he comes and talks to them. So I kept thinking, like, I'm going to bring up something like to reference the thing so he'll know it's me. But I don't know. I couldn't think of a good one. And I'm like, they're doing a whole thing. I don't want to like screw with his head or whatever. It's fine. So it finally finishes. The thing was really long, so I'm getting ready to go. And I'm heading to the thing. I'm one of the first people heading out the thing, and everybody's behind me. And I look, and all of the main members of the court are standing in what absolutely looks like a receiving line. And I guess being a little punch drunk at this point, was like, oh, now it's going to be like a wedding receiving line? I thought we got to leave. What is all of this? And then I say, it's actually kind of just like at a funeral when you have to do this. And the first person in line was that kid. And so I say to him, I'm sorry for your loss. And I look at him, and this is a kid who smiles and laughs constantly. Nothing. That joke did not land so hard, it might have created a vacuum. So I'm like, all right. You know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, whatever. I keep walking. I'm out. Christmas, I'm hanging out with my niece, and she mentions that this guy later asked her why her uncle said sorry for your loss on the way out, meaning he did not hear the things I said beforehand.
Right.
My niece, who also didn't hear any of this, tells him it has to have something to do with the stealing from the D&D campaign, which was a relief to this young man because his mind was swimming because recently his grandfather died.
Oh.
And he thought maybe I knew his grandfather for some reason. And then, as I'm in the fetal position on the floor at Christmas, I tell my niece, no, it had nothing to do with any of that at all. It was the punchline to a joke setup I apparently just told to myself. So I'm just like, I don't think I can come to your graduation because he's going to want to kick me in the nuts. And I only think it's fair that I let him, but I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to stay away. I've ruined this boy's life. I don't know. And they are maybe going to go to the same college together. So this boy might be around. He seems like a nice kid. And I am sorry for his loss now that I know about it.
Sure. Yeah, that's a tricky thing to joke about when you don't really know the person or what's going on in their life. I'm just
putting layers and layers on this kid without actually talking to him. It's messed up. All right, we got to wrap up. I desperately want all of you to go to the blog, themagicaltalkinghat.com, go to this episode, and in the comments there, tell us your thoughts on all the stuff William had to say about stripping. Because I found it fascinating, but occasionally it made my eyebrow go up. So I feel like there's a potential plethora of interpretations of what you said, and I'm just really curious to see them.
Well,
okay. I hope I didn't
offend anybody. That's not what I was trying to do.
Oh, I don't think you did that. We are inoffensive. We're like Sharknado. We're not really anything. Also tell us how your holiday was. Also, as Talon, tell us if you finished Horizon Forbidden West or not. No spoilers, please. Any cool loot anybody got? Whatever you want there. Go to aethertheater.com, see all of William's business. Go to smashwords.com, buy my novel Odd Wings, which is currently free for another couple of days. Check that out. And listen next year because we'll do it again. Same deal over again. Yeah, this is you can only use the joke once a year, so you got to make sure to use it. We'll see you next year. You can't get tired of it. You only get to use it once a year.
Yep.